someone that you can't really ignore, I don't think. She's an anti-war activist from America, in Code, and if you've watched We Are Many movie, which I'm sure many of you have done, you can't miss her at all. Last night she was a stand-up comic at our gig at Shaw Theatre, and she's already done 2 workshops before coming along to this afternoon plenary to tell us what she's got to offer. Medea Benjamin.
Well, it's a little embarrassing being from the United States these days. We have the craziest election coming up that I've ever seen in my life. Donald Trump never ceases to amaze. He embarrasses us every single day. First we thought it was entertaining, now we're just like tearing our hair out. Who is this guy? How did he get to this position? And of course the Republicans are asking themselves the same question. I don't think Donald Trump is going to be the next president, which is, you know, a bit of a sigh of relief, except when you think of who will be the next president. With the fabulous Green Party candidate Jill Stein. In our electoral system, the third parties are sidelined, and most of the American people don't even get to hear from them. So most likely we will have Hillary Clinton as the next president of the United States. I don't think I have to tell this crowd the problems that will entail, especially when it comes to foreign policy issues, because we have already seen her record from the time she voted for the Iraq War when she was a senator, to the time that she was Secretary of State and obviously didn't learn her lesson in Iraq because she was a cheerleader for the intervention in Libya that has been so disastrous. She was for more troops in Afghanistan. She's for keeping troops inside Iraq. She has a terrible position when it comes to Israel, so terrible that she is even focused on the non-violent tactic of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and told people to go after that movement. So we are, and then there is the issue of Syria, where she has called for a no-fly zone. I was at a hearing the other day when the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was asked what it would mean to have a no-fly zone in Syria, and I will read you word by word. He said, for us to control all of the airspace in Syria would require us to go to war against Syria and Russia. This is the top general of the United States. And then when it comes to Hillary Clinton, we also know that she has been a very good friend of the Saudis, despite the fact that it's the Saudi regime most responsible for the spread of extremism around the world. There were some WikiLeaks cables that were released that said, showed Hillary Clinton saying, oh my goodness, what are we going to do about these Saudis? They're funding all these extremist groups and we can't get them to stop. And she, as Secretary of State, certainly could have put her foot down. Instead, what she did was authorize the largest sales of weapons to Saudi Arabia ever in the history of the United States. And in fact, in the 8 years of the Obama administration, the wonderful Nobel Peace Prize winner, we have sold $115 billion worth of weapons to the repressive Saudi government. We also know that Hillary Clinton did something else, which is she took $25 million for the Clinton Foundation from the Saudis. And her own chief of her presidential campaign, John Podesta, his brother Tony Podesta, they together created a lobby group called the Podesta Group, is a paid foreign agent of the Saudi government, receiving $140,000 every month from the Saudis. So we have no illusion, like we did when Obama came in, that he would get us out of these wars. And there is a positive side to that, which I think it's going to be a lot easier to rebuild the anti-war movement under Hillary Clinton. In fact, you see that we already have some tremendous alliances. If you look at the most dynamic activist group in the United States today, it is by far the Black Lives Matter movement. contesting in streets all over our country the daily killings of young black men from our communities, the mass incarceration, the militarization of our police forces, has put out a fabulous document, the platform of the Black Lives Matter movement, in which it says that the military budget must be cut dramatically to reallocate those resources to domestic infrastructure and community well-being. And the Black Lives Matter movement platform also looks at the Israeli actions in Palestine, calls it an apartheid state, and used the word genocide, which got them in a lot of problems with other sectors, some sectors of the Jewish community. They stood their ground. They are great allies in the movement for justice for the Palestinian people. In the issue around Saudi Arabia, we have some exciting new developments. After 15 years of trying, finally the victims of the 9/11 attack have won the right to sue the Saudi government in U.S. courts. Which was to force our government to stop the sale of cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia because of their use in Yemen, committing war crimes there. And we are now, as you're doing here, challenging the entire system of selling weapons to the repressive Saudi regime and calling for an end to U.S. involvement in the war in Yemen. And seeing the renewed energy that the rise of Jeremy Corbyn has brought not only to the Labour Party but to the anti-war movement. And we have had our own Jeremy Corbyn type bump with the Bernie Sanders campaign. Those of us who knew Bernie Sanders for years, that this very curmudgeonly, non-charismatic 75-year-old white man became such a cool guy, especially among young people who just flocked to his appearances to just bask in the truths that Bernie Sanders was telling to the American public about the inequalities of the U.S. system, about the vast rise of the upper 1%, and about the need for major transformation of our economy and our country. And it was so important, his candidacy, that there was a poll that was done of the young people in our country that said the majority of young Americans had a more favorable view of socialism than of capitalism. Where the politics are way to the right of the politics in this country, and where before Bernie Sanders, socialism was pretty much a dirty word. So I just want to end on a very positive note, because I think we have the makings of a renewed, energetic, intersectional, intergenerational, interracial anti-war movement in the United States that will have the ability, hopefully, to reach out across to those of you in other countries and make common cause. I was very inspired when I was at the Democratic Party convention. Oh, at the Republican Party convention, I was also inspired. In fact, I got up on a table during Donald Trump's acceptance speech with a sign that said, "Build bridges, not walls." And then at the Democratic convention, we got inside, and there was a plan among one of these, the Oregon states, that when the Secretary of Defense, the former Secretary of Defense, got up to speak, there's usually great reverence for the military, as Ben Griffin well knows, and we were planning, when he got up, to start yelling out, "No more war, no more war." Well, the Hillary Clinton people got wind of it, and they said, if they start yelling out "no more war," yell out "USA, USA." Crazy to think that no more war is something anti-democratic, but in any case, the general got up to speak, and first it started in one section, the "no more war," the "no more war," the "no more war," and you heard a little bit of the USA, but suddenly in the entire convention was resounding with this call, "No more war, no more war, no more war." our governments from this endless wars that they have gotten us in. Remember that you have comrades across the Atlantic whose arms are raised high and will be saying constantly, no more war, no more war. Thank you so much.